Traditionally, we take a moment at this time before we start the ceremony to have a moment of silence for those Hall of Fame inductees that we've lost over the last year. That would be Mel Lambert, Tommy Steiner, and last but not least, Bodacious. So just a moment of silence for them. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the chairman of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame Board and the commissioner of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, Mr. Steve Hatchell.
Thank you, Pat. Well, it's great to see all of you. It's not quite as hot as we thought it would be, so we've got a little cloud cover. Father Don brought us some little relief from the heat, so we can all be very thankful for this wonderful day. It's great to have you here. This is a special celebration of rodeo, and it's another chapter that we add to this living legacy, which is our Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. By your attendance here today, you make it very special, and we thank you so much for being here to honor these very, very special people. This has been a wonderful week for rodeo. Earlier this week, we had an unveiling of the new bronze steer wrestling, and it was to commemorate Mr. Jim Bynum, one of the great people in rodeo. And before you leave here today, you need to look at that bronze before you go. And we'd also like to point out that shortly after this ceremony, that we'll break ground on a new building on this facility, which will be right where that tent is, where you'll have lunch that our good friends from Coors are sponsoring today, which we're calling a pavilion, an all-glass front structure that we can host a lot of functions here, and we can still maintain our general business through the Hall of Fame. It'll be a building that will be of great use to this community and a real testimony to the world champions, because this building will be dedicated to them. And so we welcome you to come back many times to share in what we have at the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to all of our inductees and their families. The Hall of Fame is a living testimony to all of you, and we have some great people here today to help share that. As Father Don pointed out, this is a family, and the rodeo family has gathered here today to really underline the wonderfulness of today. And because so many people work so hard to make this work, I think it's appropriate for all of us to take a moment to say hello to those who are special within rodeo. I'd first of all like to ask all of the members of the PRCA Board of Directors who are here today, and once they stand, if you'd give them a round of applause. Troy Ellerman, our chairman, Bob Thane, Benny Butler, Chuck Sylvester, and Derek Clark. If you'd all stand, please. We have members of our Hall of Fame board are here today, Mr. Tom Watt and Ken Oakes and Harry Vold. You'd all stand, and thank you so much. We have some very special people that I have the good fortune to work with day in and day out, and that's the staff of the PRCA. And if all you good people would stand and let us thank you for all your good work. And the staff of the Hall of Fame, thank you so much for today. We appreciate you. Our wonderful event at the end of the year, the National Finals Rodeo, couldn't be conducted in the manner that it's conducted, which is one of the truly great sporting events in the United States, without the help of not just friends, but just buddies from Las Vegas events. And we have two of them with us today, Berlin Miller and Kirk Hendricks. And if you'd stand, and thanks so much, guys, for being here today. The general manager who produces those great shows at the NFR, Mr. Sean Davis, a member of the Hall of Fame. Sean, if you'd stand and let us thank you. Thank you for being here today. And of course, a big thank you to Pat Hildebrand for all of your hard work here today, Pat, and you just need to hold off the rain, that's all. We have some other folks that we would like to thank. The lady behind me who is going to help with our presentations has been not just terrific, but has been a wonderful ambassador for all of rodeo, and it's Brandy DeYoung, who is Miss Rodeo America for this year. And if you'd thank Brandy for all of your hard work and all the things you do for us, thank you. We have rodeo royalty here today under Rihanna Wadhams, and we have a lot of state queens here. And they've taken time out of their schedules to be here at this function. And if all of you good ladies would stand so we can thank you for all of what you do for rodeo during the course of the year. Thank you all. Carolyn Vitor, President of the Women's Professional Rodeo Association. Carolyn, thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate it. We have many Hall of Famers in attendance today, people that make this such a wonderful facility, such a wonderful structure. And I'm going to ask, gentlemen, if you would stand so that we can recognize you all at once. Mr. Cotton Rosser, Mr. Bob Thane, Mr. Charlie Sampson, the great Larry Mahan, Buster Ivory, Harry Vold, Reg Kessler, and Cajun Davis. If you'd stand, please, so we could recognize you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's really nice to have you back. Thank you. The Pikes Peak or Bust Rodeo is taking place right now, and they've added a fun dimension to this week, and they've brought back an awful lot of clowns, rodeo clowns, the people that make us laugh, the people that make us buy tickets to go to the rodeos. And if all of you good people that are here for that reunion, if you'd please stand and let us recognize you, and thank you all. Thank you all for making rodeo so special. Rodeo can't move ahead without the help of some very, very special people that a lot would call sponsors. We call corporate partners because we don't move ahead without them. And we're blessed today by a wonderful grouping of people who are sitting over to my left in the other tent. And one of the reasons that we're able to have a facility like this, new facilities, have a Hall of Fame, television this year that's 105 hours of television, it includes a lot of prime time television that we can move ahead with rodeo, is because of these people. And would really like you to take a moment just to say hello to them. And I would first start with our friends from Coors, Tom Howensey and Todd Howarder. And thank you for your sponsorship of our lunch today, guys. It's really nice to have you with us. Thank you. From Wrangler, Louis Russo, Carl Stressman, Nancy Smith, and their president, Don Laws. Thank you all. Thanks, guys. Glad you got that Texas tie on, Louis. From U.S. Tobacco, President Murray Kessler, Garnis Hagan, Bill Etter, Darrell Barron, and Scott Walton. Guys? Thank you. From Resistol and Arena Brands, Tom Harris, President of Resistol, and John Tillotson, President of Arena Brands. Thank you, guys. From Jack Daniels, our newest sponsor, Dan Hedrick and Renita Gordon. Thank you both. From Justin Brands, Tom Feller, President Randy Watson. Thank you, guys. And some new kids on the block that we're going to harness up here real soon. From Dr. Pepper 7-Up, Jack Kilduff, and Cindy Clark. Jack is their CEO. Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here. And thank you all so much for saying hi to them. We're doing something different in rodeo for this presentation today. This entire event is being uplinked through satellite services. This entire show is on the internet as we speak right now, in real time, fed across the country. The people from Argo, which is based in Atlanta, offices in Tucson, are here to put this show. The uplink truck is off to your right. And everything that we do here today is fed to TV stations around the country and this entire show is on the internet through ProRodeo.com. And we think it's going to help, and it is helping rodeo a lot. We're averaging 500,000 hits a day during the regular workday season, and in events like this, such as the NFR championship event at the MGM, we're averaging over 2 million hits, and we think that rodeo has a vast appeal, and this is another chapter to that. So I might remind you all to be careful, because we're putting you on television today. A lot of people are going to see you. Well, the reason that we're here is a celebration of some very, very special people. They're special because they had dreams and they made the dreams work. And all you have to do is walk through that Hall of Fame and look at what's on those cases, and you realize that rodeo doesn't just have a rich history. It has some wonderful people who have made this sport, this event, this way of life so absolutely wonderful. Today's another chapter. These people here represent the class of 2000. But what they represent is one more chapter as we try to celebrate everything that's good in rodeo. So having you here today is vitally important, because rodeo is important to you. You're the family, friends, you're the people that make it work. We've tried to put together today what we would say is a great celebration of this, and that's why we're so happy to share it with you. So thank you so much. And with that, we'll begin our induction. And we're going to do much of that through the videos and the videos that you'll see around you. So Dean, we'll get started.
A stroll through the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, and you'll see names such as Descent, Oscar, Casey Tibbs, Jim Shoulders, Benny Binion, Malcolm Baldridge, Cy Talion, and Larry Mahan. Names that give the Hall of Fame a majestic feeling of the past and the present. This year, we honor the following inductees who will surely add to that proud and majestic feeling. For its notable achievement and contribution to professional rodeo, we recognize the Tucson Rodeo, La Fiesta de los Vaqueros. Tucson's annual rodeo, La Fiesta de los Vaqueros, the Feast of the Cowboys, is today one of the great Western shows of the nation. It brings to the arena many of the top contestants in the world of cowboy sports. Among rodeos, it is as Wild West as they come. Tucson Rodeo was first conceived and brought into being not by a Westerner, but by an Eastern industrialist and winter visitor to Tucson who liked the area, its people, and loved horses, and liked to play cowboy. His name was Leighton Kramer. At a luncheon meeting at his home, Kramer asked his Tucson guests why the old Pueblo, with all its horsemen and cattlemen, had no rodeo of its own. He suggested something should be done about it. Thus a committee was formed. A site was found to hold the event, and the Tucson Rodeo was born. Now, some 3/4 of a century later, the Tucson Rodeo is regarded as one of the major stops in the PRCA circuit. Old Leighton Kramer and his luncheon guests would surely be proud of what they would see on ESPN television today.
Here to accept for the Tucson Rodeo, if you would greet one of the real giants in our business, Mr. Gary Williams. Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I was fortunate enough to attend my first Tucson Rodeo in February 1949 when I was less than a month old. My folks told me that that was probably the best behaved I've ever been, either before or since. I sat transfixed. I never took my eyes off the arena. I didn't cry. I didn't fuss. They only wet my pants twice, according to my mom. I'll try to do better than that today. But it seems to me that that's what our sport has to offer. It's that fascination. It's the ability to hold people's attention transfixed. We've been doing that in Tucson, fortunately, for 75 years now. La Fiesta de los Vaqueros is the celebration of the cowboys, and it's been a great celebration. The Tucson Rodeo began as a celebration of the heritage and the tradition of the American cowboy and the Mexican vaquero. 75 years later, that celebration continues. During our history, the Rodeo Committee has had just a few simple goals. First of all, to put on absolutely the best professional rodeo that we possibly could. To continue the celebration of the tradition of the cowboy and to support our community. 75 years from now, God willing, those will still be our goals and we'll still be achieving them. The Tucson Rodeo Committee is pretty much like any other rodeo committee. We're made up of volunteers who care deeply for our sport. We're business people. We're housewives. We're professionals. We're retirees. We do what we do for one reason: the joy of a job well done, the satisfaction of seeing the best rodeo we can produce occur. We're deeply appreciative of this award. It's a true milestone in the history of the Tucson Rodeo. But beyond the committee, there are many, many people who have made this recognition possible. Without them, we simply couldn't do what we do. The rodeo fans who buy tickets, God love them, without them, none of us would be here today. Every single rodeo contestant who has ever entered the Tucson Rodeo from 1925 to the present day has left their mark on this event through their accomplishments in the arena. The volunteers who park your cars, take your tickets, sell you a hamburger and a soft drink, we couldn't do what we do without them. They're probably the true unsung heroes. All the contract personnel who have worked the rodeo over the years, from the announcers to the secretaries to the timers to the clowns and bullfighters, we couldn't do also what we do without their contribution. Our sponsors, they have made it possible for us to conduct this event at the level that we have achieved over the years. Original Coors, Dodge Truck, Wrangler, U.S. Tobacco, and just to name a few, are very important to us, and we thank them tremendously because they own a piece of this award as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't single out for special recognition a group of people who have become a part of the Tucson Rodeo family, and they are a family. In 1952, Lynn, Jake, and L. Ray Butler began bringing livestock to the Tucson Rodeo. Through the years, through Jiggs Butler, continuing to today with Benny Butler, and on into the future, when I'm sure it'll be Red or Katie if she gets the upper hand on him, they have provided way more than livestock. They provided advice and counsel, support, and probably most importantly, they provided friendship. Benny, we thank you very much. We salute this year's inductees into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. Their contributions to our sport will never be forgotten, nor should they ever be forgotten. In behalf of the Tucson Rodeo Committee, we thank the Hall of Fame, Commissioner Steve Hatchell, Pat Hildebrand, and everyone here today, and we invite you to come and see us in Tucson next February when we'll continue the celebration. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tucson Rodeo. Thanks so much, Gary.
Inducted into the hall this year in the stock category, Skoal Sippin Velvet. Skoal Sippin Velvet was born on the Haas Inman Ranch in Lamar, Colorado. He was sired by Grand Admiral, a direct descendant of Man of War, the famous Running Horse, and the NFR bucking mare Sweet Thing. Originally named Abdallah when Haas Inman sold his rodeo company to Bernice Johnson in 1988, Bernice changed his name to Sippin Velvet. Later that year, Sippin Velvet was voted Bareback Horse of the Year, winning the Black Velvet Award. He went on to win Bareback Horse of the Year in 1983, 1984, and again in 1986 and 1987. When Copenhagen Skoal entered into the PRCA Bucking Stock Award, Skoal was added to Sippin Velvet's name. Skoal Sippin Velvet was once again voted Bareback Horse of the Year in 1989.
Now to Merle Temple. Here's a kid that's wanted to be like him from South Dakota. This is the B-Bar J horse, the 5-time world champion B-Bar J horse called Skoal Sippin Velvet. If you had a $100,000 bucket horse at home, you could pattern him after this horse. He's won it all 5 times. Look at the horse. Look at Merle. Oh, sit out, Merle, my man. Help him a little. Come on now.
After 18 NFR qualifications at the 1994 NFR, Burness retired Skoal Sippin Velvet. He never failed to buck, but Burness wanted him always to be remembered as the great horse that he was. As he made his final circle of the arena, head high, always proud, he knew he was a champion, and his fans knew too, as they watched him for the last time. In January 1996, Skoal Sippin Velvet, at the age of 26, died and was buried at the Johnson home in Texas.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please welcome Mr. Burness Johnson. Burness.
This is a great day for myself and my family to have Skoal Sippin Velvet inducted into this hall. I'd like to thank the ProRodeo Hall of Fame for inducting Skoal Sippin Velvet. I'd also like to thank my sponsors. It's been great through the years to sponsor these great bucking horses. I'd like to thank Darren Barron with Copenhagen Skoal. After 20 years of rodeoing, I had the desire to become a stock contractor. I was given the opportunity to become a stock contractor by the Flying Eye Rodeo Company. I merged the B-Bar J with the Flying Eye Rodeo Company, and that's how Sippin Velvet came along. He was a great horse. He had a lot of heart. If you could ride, you could win on this horse. We bucked him a lot. He had the heart to stay. We went to the national finals 18 times, and I'd like to thank the bareback riders that supported him throughout the years. Ty Mary for riding him at winning the $200,000 mark. J.C. Torrio had him, and he had to ride Sippin Velvet to be able to win the year, and he did. I was tickled for J.C. I want to thank all those bareback riders. I would like to thank the Cowboys, the stock contractors that voted for him all these years through the years. Thank my family. Thank my son Bernie and David for the support they had. They flanked this horse, picked him up. I'd just like to thank the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Ernest, we got one more thing for you here too. So that's for you.
It's heavy. Got it?
Oh, yeah.
It's real heavy, and also this book here too.
Thank you.
You get lots of money.
That's great. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Inducted into the hall this year in the stock contractor category, Joe Kelsey. At an early age of 14, Joe Kelsey won his first rodeo. The year was 1924, and Joe was hooked on the sport for the rest of his life. Joe continued to rodeo through the 30s and 40s and was regarded as one of the top bronc riders in the Northwest, competing mostly in Washington, Oregon, Montana, and Wyoming. In 1945, Joe decided also to start providing stock for rodeo contestants. He not only wanted to participate, he wanted to provide the best stock possible to the sport. The Kelsey stock soon gained recognition as some of the best in the business, and Joe was furnishing stock to some pretty famous rodeos: the Calgary Stampede, Pendleton Roundup, Ellensburg Rodeo, and the Cow Palace in San Francisco. Joe's son, Sonny, joined with his father, and together they continued to supply rodeos with some outstanding stock. Names like Devil's Dream, John Doe, Shake 'em Down, Number 17, and Red One were soon becoming the talk of the trade. As the Kelseys continued to supply many of rodeo's top stock, other names like Set to Velvet, Big Skies Velvet, and Velvet Rider came on the scene. Their stock contracting business had grown to where they were supplying stock to some 30 rodeos. Kelsey's stock was becoming so famous that Time magazine ran a story on the bull Ott. Seems he was tame enough to be a pet until you put a cowboy on his back. And then he became a giant, bucking, snorting bull that even the champion Harry Tompkins couldn't stay on. For 60 years, Joe Kelsey continued to provide some of rodeo's most famous stock. Pee-wee, White Hope, Whiz Band, Try Me, Brown Jug, Yukon, Geronimo, Big John. The names go on and on. A Washington native who won his first rodeo at age 14 and who gave more than 60 years of his life to the sport of rodeo, Joe never forgot what it was like to be on the bucking end of a ride. Joe loved to raise and provide top stock to the rider, but he never wanted to see someone get hurt. He helped many smaller rodeos in tight times and was always ready to help a down-and-out cowboy. After suffering a stroke in late 1984, Joe's health was never premium again. He passed away February 10th, the following year, at age 75.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Melissa Stockman. Melissa? We'll give that to you afterwards. Thank you.
I'm very honored to be here and to represent my grandpa. He started rodeoing at 14, and shortly after that, he became a pickup man, and he was not too happy with who he was picking up with, and they weren't getting the cowboys off because they thought they could just save themselves. And so he decided to, in all fairness to the cowboys, he'd start his own stock, and he took a lot of pride in his animals and fairness for the cowboys. And I'm just honored, and he'd be very proud of being here. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. We've got all kinds of hardware for this. Okay, we'll give you this too. Whoops. Thank you so much.
Inducted into the Hall this year, in the contract personnel category, George Doak and Junior Meek. George and Junior seemed destined to become partners in two of rodeo's most famous clowns and bullfighters. Both were born in the state of Texas around the same time, Junior in 1936 and George in 1937. When George was asked at 8 years old what he wanted to be, he immediately answered, "The best rodeo clown in the world." It was quite a surprise to his family, who had no farming, ranching, or rodeo background. In 1954, Junior was at an amateur rodeo that had no one as a bullfighter. Junior offered to be the bullfighter for his entry fee to ride bulls and wrestle steers. Along about the same time, George also had an opportunity to fight bulls for his entry fee to ride bulls and bareback. For the first 10 years, the two worked separately, both making a name for themselves as clowns and bullfighters. In 1963, George and Junior got together to book rodeos as a team. This was the first time two great bullfighters had joined their talents and skills as partners. Either as a team or individually, the two of them worked most every major rodeo from east to west and north to south, including college, high school, and national finals rodeos. George helped initiate the Wrangler Bullfight program and appeared in the Academy Award-winning documentary film of the year, The Great American Cowboy. Junior's career spanned some 20 years, including top rodeos in 28 different states, Canada, Cuba, and Australia. He was in high demand because he never hesitated to jump over a raging bull or to do a cartwheel over one that had just dumped his rider. The two of them clowning around together with all the great rodeo announcers such as Cy Talon, Mel Lampert, and Pete Logan made a full-time career seem like a vacation. Their bullfighting abilities protected some of the best bull riders of all time. Jim Shoulders, Harry Tompkins, Larry Mahan, and Don Gay. George Doak's boyhood dream came true. He became one of the best clowns and bullfighters in rodeo. George and Junior have both retired from rodeo, but their smiling faces, a trademark of their clowning abilities, are still seen at rodeo clown reunions and the Texas Special Olympics, where the two of them help make less fortunate athletes smile.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome George Doak and Junior Meek. Come on up, guys. Here, guys, put this in together, okay?
Thank you very much.
We got
Appreciate
a couple of things here when you go, too.
All right.
Thank you
so much.
You bet.
Well, good morning again. I'm just so tickled to death to be here. If y'all is half as happy as I am, you're all mighty happy people. Not a whole lot to say after watching that deal. It is an honor and a pleasure, and I want to congratulate all my fellow inductees. The class of 2000, I think, is awfully good. I want to compliment the board of directors on their choice, and I think they made a good one. And I do thank you. This has been a fun-filled week. When we had already planned to come to a clown reunion, and all my friends and some of the committees have shown up all over, and I see Howard Harris and some of the people that we started with. It gave me my start back in the 50s and kind of a training ground, a Texan going to New Jersey to be trained. But it worked out, and I met Junior. He was my hero. I met him in 58, and then we finally hooked up. He carried me to Denver in 61, and we were real lucky. We booked some rodeos together and separately, and from then on, it just was a good friendship. And in the rodeo business, you know, that's all we have is friends and try, and that's what Junior taught me the most of, is good friends and keep trying, and it looked out real good. Real cute story. Junior told me one time he'd stick with him, he'd bury me in diamonds, but this rock they're getting ready to give me is a whole lot better. Give me that thing. And I just want to thank you very much, and that's my final answer, because I feel like a millionaire today.
Now it's my turn? Yes, sir. Boy, I know this is going to be good, don't y'all? Like George said, good morning. I'm glad y'all are here, and better than that, I'm glad I'm here. And like George said, my wife and I was talking about the board. I guess probably it's the best board we've ever had, and they did make some good decisions this year. You know, I had a good friend a couple of years ago to tell me that Cecil Cornish, better known as Mr. Rodeo, said no one ever gets to the top without a lot of help and a lot of friends. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I've had a bunch of both. It's like when I first started, I hitchhiked to a rodeo in Mississippi, Louisiana. And Mr. Jim Dyer, a good friend, he hired me for a rodeo over at Hammond, Louisiana, is where I met Junior Hood. And later he was kind of in the stock producing business, and we worked the rodeo. And a couple of weeks later, there was a RCA rodeo at Franklinton, Louisiana. And Junior Hood said, you going to the rodeo at Franklinton? And I said, oh, Lord of mercy, no, that's an RCA rodeo. He said, heck, we'll just get us an RCA card. I said, I don't know whether that'd work or not. And he said, no. And Junior went and bought me an RCA card and gave it to me, and he said, boy, you going places. I didn't know this is what Junior had in mind. But like I said, you know, we get so busy we forget. And there's no way to thank everybody. And as most of you know, at my house, my wife does most of the talking. And her and Miss Gail Warner and Miss Betty Terrell, they've been a training on me ever since we heard about this deal, but I lost that slip she gave me. But but this is really great. And there's not any way that I can thank everybody, but there's a special thanks goes out to the greatest lady I know, my wife, and Meek.
Ladies and gentlemen, George Doak, Junior Meek. Thanks a lot, guys.
Inducted into the hall this year in the notable category, Cecil Jones. Cecil Jones was born in the potato country of Idaho. Most of the young kids there picked potatoes for their money, but Cecil opted to ride broncs at some of the local rodeos to make his spending money. He found that you could make $1 a ride, and to him, that was a lot better than picking spuds. The year was 1934. Cecil was 17 years old, and he was on his way to a life of rodeo that has spanned some 60 years. In 1937, Cecil met the rodeo king of the West, Harry Rowell, and a lifelong friendship between Cecil and Harry began. Cecil began working on the Rowell Ranch, and whenever he could, he would enter in a rodeo. He joined the Cowboys Turtles Association in 1938 and began riding bareback saddle broncs and bulls. His rodeo career was somewhat interrupted in 1941 when he was drafted into the Army, but his heart was still in rodeo. So, while in Japan, he helped organize a rodeo featuring cowboys who were also serving their time. It was 1945 and was part of the American occupation of Japan. After returning from Japan, Cecil was lured back to California by Mr. Rowell to manage his ranch. Cecil retired from rodeoing in 1949, but only as a contestant. He has continued to be involved in rodeo for more than 60 years. As a rodeo secretary, judge, and rodeo coordinator, he has worked rodeos from Madison Square Garden to the Cow Palace in San Francisco. Cecil is particularly proud of being chosen as the first National Final Secretary at the 1959 NFR held in Dallas. Cecil served 2 years on the board of directors of the PRCA as a committee representative. Some of the many awards he has received include the PRCA Promotion of Rodeo and Western Life Award, Cow Palace Special Appreciation Award, and the Justin Boot Company Man of the Year and Standard of the West Award. Cecil Jones certainly has had a lifetime of rodeo association. This quote from Cecil sums up the way he has lived his life. I am committed to see that rodeo as a sport and as part of America's most treasured history of the West and the Western way of life is passed on for future generations.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cecil Jones. Cecil. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Wow. What an honor to be standing here and being one of the class of 2000. It's been a long road for a kid from Idaho picking potatoes to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Rodeo has been great to me. I have met a lot of wonderful people and made a host of great friends. And now joining the many great people previously inducted is an honor almost beyond belief. In 1938, I met and went to work for Harry Rowell. He and his wife Maggie started me on my rodeo journey. I feel so fortunate to have had such a long friendship and business association with them. Luck has been with me. Luck has been part of rodeo. When in 1940 I was selected to go to Sydney, Australia, along with Hank Mills and Jasbo Fulkerson to take part in the Royal Easter Show. I came home as an all-around and bull riding champion. I was drafted in the Army in 1941. I entered the Reno Rodeo as a civilian and left as a GI. I was sent to Camp Swift, Texas, out of Austin. There I met and married my wife of over 56 years, Fan. When I was sent to Japan, as the war was winding down, Lieutenant Dick Ryan, the former rodeo promoter, came up with the idea of an all-GI rodeo to be held in Tokyo at the Meiji Stadium. He then arranged for my transfer from my artillery unit to his special service unit to help with the construction of the arena and finding the stock. What a deal that was. After that, I had points enough to head home. Again, Raul called me. Fan and I moved from Austin, Texas to Dublin, California, and the rodeo live. After the birth of our daughter Terry in 1949, I quit contesting and became being the secretary and managing rodeos for Raul. I was fortunate enough to work many rodeos, including the Cow Palace, Red Bluff, Reno, Madison Square Gardens, the first National Finals rodeo. We bought the Raul Saddle Company, and I was able to work with Dave Stout and the RCA board in helping design and craft some of the special award buckles and trophies still being used today. My terms on the RCA board of directors helped me to realize what potential this sport had. I have worked and been associated with several great people in rodeo, and to all of them I say thanks. But there are two special people that deserve my thanks: Cotton Rosser, Jack Smith. I want to also thank my friends and my family members who made the trip to share this day with me, and those who could not be here. Our own Raul Ranch Rodeo group that has hung tough in keeping the Raul Ranch Rodeo ongoing. To my wife, Fan, daughter, Terry, son-in-law, Walt Rivas, and their family for all the support and help over the years. You all are the best. Pro Rodeo, I thank you.
It's heavy.
All right, I get it. Can I call for some help?
Inducted into the Hall this year in the all-around category is Chuck Sheppard. Chuck Sheppard grew up on a ranch where his father raised horses. His dad was a good bronc rider, and he taught Chuck to ride at a very early age. When Chuck was 9 or 10 years old, his dad would put him on a bronc, and Chuck, even at that early age, would ride the bronc 3 or 4 times until his dad felt he was somewhat broke, and then turned the bronc over to someone else to ride. By the time Chuck was 15, he could ride most any of the horses. He also learned to rope wild cattle on the ranch. His background for rodeo was starting at an early age. You might say Chuck Sheppard and rodeo grew up together. He rode his first rodeo in 1932 and turned professional in 1937. About the same time, the Turtles was being formed and asked Chuck to join. He felt he had nothing to lose, and it was necessary just as the PRCA is necessary today. He was crowned world champion team roper in 1946, winning the title based on his Rodeo Cowboys Association points. In Chuck's day of rodeo, there was an IRA and there was the RCA. Chuck felt the IRA was more for the management and the producers of the rodeo, and the RCA was more for the cowboy. He says this left RCA cowboys in a dilemma. Should one compete in events for big money and prestige, or stick to RCA circuit events? They had different point systems, and RCA standings were not necessarily picking up IRA points. Sheppard, a cowboy for the sake of being a cowboy, stuck to his RCA guns. Consequently, he never gained some of the all-around acclaim which he was due. But Chuck maintained that making a living was more important than winning titles. He was more concerned with putting food on his family's table, wherever that table might have been. Chuck Sheppard, while putting food on his family's table, was also able to win numerous championships along the way. To name a few: team roping, Phoenix, Tucson, Salinas, Las Vegas; bulldogging, Boise, Reno, Las Vegas, El Paso, Caldwell; steer roping, Prineville, Oregon; calf roping, National Western in Denver, tying the record with Toots Mansfield and Jack Skipworth; Boise, Nampa, Portland, Lewiston; saddle bronc, Livermore, Helena, Boise, Nampa, Portland, Haywood. The list goes on and on. 2 years ago, at the age of 82, Chuck teamed up with his friend Jerry Christofferson to win the Rope America Team Roping event. With a total combined age approaching 150 years, they were leading going into the short go and never looked back. First place was a very smooth 37:04 on 4, 2 full seconds faster than any other team. Even though PRCA records indicate Chuck Sheppard won only one championship team roping in 1946, in Chuck's days of rodeo, he was certainly an all-around champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, how about a big round of applause for Mr. Chuck Sheppard.
I'm proud to be here with all these top hands. Kind of a little bit out of my category, but it's very honorable to be up here. But what I liked best about coming here was to be where the same place as some of my old friends that's already been inducted. And they're already gone, they won't be here. But they're just about as good a hand as they got today. And anybody that knows them or seen them will sure verify that. And I want to thank you for helping me get here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Why don't you, yeah, should take you back to your seat.
Inducted into the Hall this year in the all-around category, Ty Murray. In football, it was John Elway. In basketball, it was Michael Jordan. Hockey had Wayne Gretzky. Golf has Tiger Woods. And rodeo has Ty Murray. Ty Murray set out to be the best cowboy in the world, and through hard work and dedication, he has become just that. His friend Tuff Hedeman said, "I saw Ty ride when he was about 15, and I knew then it was just a matter of time and him getting old enough to get his PRCA card before he started making his mark." By the time Ty turned 19, he won the Resistol Rookie of the Year. The very next year, he won his first World All-Around title, just 20 years old, and an all-around title. Unheard of, yes, but even more of a phenomenon is that he won the next 5 in a row. Only 2 other cowboys in all of rodeo history had won 6 all-around titles, Tom Ferguson and Larry Mahan. And only one, Larry Mahan, did it as Ty had, in all 3 rough stock events. It's hard enough to compete at this level in just one event, let alone bareback, saddle bronc, and bull riding. Along the way, Ty's records include most single-season earnings, $297,896 in 1993. National Finals Rodeo earnings, $124,821 in 1993. World Bull Riding Championship, 1993. Regular season rodeo earnings, $31,010 at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo in 1994. Qualified for NFR and saddle bronc riding in 1989, 90, 91, 92, 93, and 94, and again in 1998 and 1999. Bareback riding in 1989, 90, 91, 92, 93, and 94. Bull riding, 1990, 91, 92, 93, and 94, and again in 1998. 1998 was really a big year for Ty. He broke the record for the most money ever won in a single year in bull riding, $167,154. The NFR average in bull riding, his second world championship in bull riding, and his record-breaking 7th World All-Around title. The first to congratulate Ty was none other than Larry Mahan. What a tribute it was for the cowboy who had previously held the record for the most all-around titles to be there to shake Ty's hand. Like Ty's friend Tuff Hedeman said when Ty was only 15 years old, It's only a matter of time until Ty Murray starts making his mark.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to do a couple of things here. One, ask Cody Lambert, Ty's traveling partner, to come on up. And I think all of us need to stand up. There's only one Ty Murray. And I think that we're all blessed to have a chance to watch him compete during our lifetime. So, Ty, if you'd come on up, please. Thank you. Hi, Cody. How are you?
Well, everybody better sit down because I talk kind of slow and I got a lot to say. Ty was born October 11th, 1969. And by the time he was about 2 years old, he knew what he wanted to be. He knew he wanted to be the greatest cowboy ever. He worked extremely hard, and his mom and dad, Butch and Joy, his two sisters, Kim and Carrie, supported him all the way. They gave him the kind of support that a kid needs to really feel good about himself and to really do well. And by the time Ty was in high school, by the time Ty left high school, he'd won over 175 saddles, a lot of other prizes. I heard a story about Ty being the little entrepreneur that he was. He used to call the rodeos and find out what kind of saddle or horse trailer they were giving for the all-around. Then he'd take bids on it before he went to the rodeo. They didn't pay very much in high school, but he made a pretty good living doing it. About 1988, Ty started rodeoing professionally, and we were together all the way until I got too old to handle it anymore. But it didn't take me just a few weeks to see that I knew how special Ty was. I'd known him for a while, but I knew that he was going to be better than anybody else. He'd worked his whole life for it. He took gymnastics when he was a kid to help his strength, balance, and coordination. Somebody told him if he learned to ride a unicycle, it would help his balance and he'd be a better bull rider and bronc rider. Somebody else told him if he learned to juggle, it'd help his hand-eye coordination. So Ty, he's 8 or 9 years old riding around on a unicycle juggling. All this time, he's just trying to be a better rodeo cowboy. He's going to be the best there ever was. I could go through all of Ty's titles, and we'd be here all day. I could go through all his records, and we'd be here all day. But I will go through a couple of little short stories that I find them kind of amusing. One of them was a great bull rider, Ted Noose. He's qualified for 14 national finals. He's a world champion in 1985. He should be in this Hall of Fame right now, and he will be before long, I'm sure. Anyway, Ty's rookie year, Ted wasn't riding too well, and Ty gets bucked off a bull and comes back behind the chutes, and Ted's trying to make Ty feel a little better, and Ty didn't want to talk to anybody because he's mad because he got bucked off. And Ted said, "Ty, you're just trying too hard." Ty looked at him and they said, "Well, I watched you, and no harder than you tried. I thought I had to try double for both of us." I dropped some of my cards here. Another time, late in 1988, about the middle, Ty's rookie year. He's Rookie of the Year in 1988, and he's also the bareback riding Rookie of the Year that year. Abilene, Kansas, we're at a rodeo in August. I've been rodeoing professionally for 6 or 7 years by then, And I had kind of a routine that I went by. I worked the saddle bronc riding and bull riding. Ty worked the bareback saddle bronc and bull riding. End of August, we're going to Abilene, Kansas. And for some reason, I like to get to the rodeo 10 minutes before it started because I didn't want to wait around. For some reason, we got there 2 hours early. I must have looked at the map wrong or something. Ty said, "What time's the rodeo start?" I said, 8 o'clock, we're there at 6. He said, "You mean I've got time to unpack?" I said, "I guess so." I didn't know what he meant by unpack. He went in the bathroom, came back out about 10 minutes later, comes out and he wins the bareback ride. And I thought, my gosh, you ride really good when you get a chance to unpack. I'm going to get us there early every time from now on. But I'm proud to get the chance to introduce Ty. I didn't know if I was going to with the format that we had today. I want to say that everybody that ever wins a world championship and every cowboy that's enshrined in this Hall of Fame, they have more determination, more grit, and are just a little tougher than the other guys. And then some of them are really high on talent, and some of them just work harder than everybody else. But for some reason, they get here. Then every once in a while, only once in my rodeo career, somebody comes along that has more physical skill, that's stronger, faster, reacting, has better balance, understands his sports, understands the mechanics of his sport, loves and respects his job more than anybody else, has that same determination, has more determination than anybody else, has the same determination as all those other world champions, maybe even more, tries harder than everybody else. Then you take that and you times that by 3 events, and you got a guy that from 1989 until now, the only thing that ever beat him in the all-around championship was injuries. If Ty wasn't hurt and was able to compete for a full year, he's the world champion all-around cowboy from 1989 till now. And then one contender seemed like he was trying to get a rivalry between the timed events and the riding events. He said, there's no race. They get to go to 125 rodeos in the riding events, and we only get to go to 100 in the timed events. I entered Ty that year. I know he entered 45 rodeos, half as many as those guys, and won twice as much money. That's how great he is. And I want to introduce the greatest friend anyone could ever have and the greatest cowboy I've ever seen, Ty Murray.
Got some notes. Well, I'm real happy to be here and real honored to be inducted with these guys that I've looked up to and read about since I was a little kid. And I've had so much fun throughout my career and traveling with Cody Lambert and Jim Sharp. I wouldn't trade the fun that we had and all the jokes we got to play on each other and having fun, and the friends that I've made in rodeo. You know, I think that's where I feel like I've been real fortunate, is I've been able to make a living doing what I dreamed about doing when I was a little kid, and I got to do it with my best friends, traveling all over the country. I'm like everybody else. I got a lot of people to thank. I think that my mom and dad are at the top of that list. The love and the support that they gave me as a kid, I know that made all the difference in the world in what I've done. Because when I was real young, riding calves or playing Pop Warner football or doing gymnastics or whatever it was I was doing, they always made me think that I was the best at it. and always made me think that I was real good at it, and that made me want to do it more, and that made me want to get better at it. And you know, I felt like back then and even now, all I've really been doing all this time is showing off for my mom and dad. And you know, it's real nice when you're rodeoing and you're gone and traveling around like crazy, and you know, it's nice to, I called them every night of my career, and I still do. I called my dad at 1:30 in the morning last night when I flown back from Oklahoma City. I rode in a bull riding last night, and Dad answers the phone at 1:30 in the morning and says, "How'd you do?" I said, "Well, Dad, if the people at the Hall of Fame would have seen me ride tonight, they might not put me in there tomorrow." I got lots of friends and family here. I can't name them all because they're all here, but there's people, just about all the people that are here have known me since the day I was born, and I feel like that they've always really loved and supported me, and I'm glad that they're here. And I really appreciate this honor, and I'm glad that everybody came out to clap for us. And I got to go back to Oklahoma City tonight and see if I can justify why I'm getting put in here. Cody dropped my note cards, so I'm kind of winging it, but but I've just, you know, I've really had a good time, and I thank the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, and I also thank the PRCA for giving me an arena to make my life possible. Rodeo's been my whole life ever since I was a little kid. It's all I've ever cared about and loved and worked at. And to ride in the PRCA, that was my lifelong dream, and to be standing up here, you know, I can't even really describe it. I just, when I started rodeoing and throughout my whole career, you know, I never really thought about going into the Hall of Fame. I thought about competing and trying to win, and that's really the only way I ever looked at it, and that's still how I look at it now. I didn't really try to be famous cowboy. I just wanted to be the best cowboy that I could be by working real hard at it. I want to thank my sponsors that are here. They're all here, and they made it real possible for me when I got hurt to take the time that I needed to heal correctly and come back 100%. And you know, that makes a big deal that's a big deal to you when the way you make a living is by how much you win and how well you're riding. And whenever you got to be out for 3 years because you was hurt, and they say, "Well, we believe that you'll be able to come back. We're going to stick with you and help you get through this." You know, that made a big difference in my career, and I want to thank all of them for that. That's about all I got to say, and I appreciate everybody coming out here, and thank you very much.
Congratulations, buddy. Great job here, Ty. Thank you, bud. Ladies and gentlemen, Ty Murray.
We are extremely proud and privileged to honor these inductees, and we congratulate them as they take their place among the previous honorees.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the film winds down, we want to thank you all for your participation here today. Most of all, we want to thank you for your support of rodeo. You make it happen. You make it special. This is the largest crowd today ever to see a Hall of Fame induction. And we thank you, and you should pat yourselves on the back for being part of history. Thanks so much for being here. We want you to know that we have some refreshments and some things to eat at the tent over here, and we'd like you to participate. Look through the Hall of Fame. And before you go, we're going to ask all of our inductees to stand up here for some pictures. So if you don't have enough pictures yet, come on up and take one of those shots with all of our inductees. But let's hear it one more time for the class of 2000 of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.